All right, and welcome to the GSMC Baseball Podcast Patreon. This is the exclusive content. So I am your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on the Patreon. So obviously just got wrapped up with the 1 hour live stream show, and I think it went very well. Obviously it was the first time actually live streaming and making the stream public because, once again, like I said in the opening, we wanted to work out, the kinks and the software, make sure everything worked out well. And, I think, we did pretty good. I would say the show went pretty good. And I kept looking at, the bottom part of the screen here, and I had audio for everything. So, the stream went well. And, so basically with the Patreon content, it really is kind of, a mixed bag. The more listeners we get and the more, super chats we get, one of the big things is obviously interacting with the audience and, reading some of the things that I might not have gotten to during the live stream. So that's going to be something that helps out this a lot. But yeah, so just a reminder, so obviously to tip or donate to the program, and get your comments recognized, once again, go to streamelements.com/gsmcsports./tip. And it's also on the bottom of the ticker here as well. So make sure to do that. But yeah, so this is basically the Patreon. And yeah, so with the show, obviously today went through a bunch of stuff. We talked about the latest headlines from today, just from today and over the last couple of days in general. Talked about the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry and how it's, kind of not the same as it once was. And then went through the scores from over the weekend, and then we went into the current standings as they are at this particular point. So I guess this is kind of just going to be like, for today, it's going to be like the show, like, condensed into a half hour. But, I mean, again, and I said this in the close of the live stream, the show went very fast. The show went very fast. And this is after last week, we started at 2 segments, which was only a half hour. Then you can add another one onto it, 45 minutes. That went fast. And now this is the full hour. And the full hour went fast. And this is kind of going to be, for the time being, it's going to be the show basically condensed into this half hour. But, so with recent news, obviously, injuries and guys not, making their bullpen sessions because of recent demotion. It's also another thing that I didn't touch upon, too. So, Japanese star pitcher Yamamoto, he is going to be posted this offseason. And he's going to be a guy that a lot of teams are going to target. And this is something I forgot to touch upon in the live show. He is going to be somebody that a lot of teams are going to want to get. And, it's going to be interesting to see. Now, Brian Cashman was in attendance because he did throw a no-hitter recently. He was in attendance for that game. And news is coming out that the Yankees are reportedly going to offer him, a bigger contract than they even did for Masahiro Tanaka. And listen, as a Yankee fan, I would love to have him because right now, when you look at the Yankees rotation, there's some question marks because Luis Severino's not coming back. Domingo Germán is probably not coming back with his off-the-field stuff. So right now, the rotation's kind of in flux. And, Carlos Rodon, he really underperformed his first season with the Yankees. Garrett Cole's been the only bright spot. And Clark Schmidt, I guess, to a much lesser degree. But Clark Schmidt has gone out there, and he's done what he was supposed to do. And can't thank him enough, honestly, with the injuries and everything. And also Michael King, he's actually done well in his starts. So he could be somebody that ends up being a starter. Because he was originally supposed to be a starter, and then they put him in the bullpen. And that's where he was supposed to be. But because of all the injuries, he's been thrown into the rotation, and they've been stretching him out as a starter. So, yeah, so we'll just have to see. But the Yankees are going to be a team that's going to look at him. You look at the Dodgers, too. The Dodgers could be a team. So the big teams are going to, try to, get him. Because the Dodgers, their pitching's kind of a little bit of a mess. Also, another thing, Julio Urias, he was arrested for, I think, assault and battery. The pitcher for the Dodgers, and it's not the first time, or it was either that or domestic violence, which is it was just not something you want to hear, and this isn't the first time that this has happened, so odds are he's probably not going to be a factor in with the Dodgers anymore going forward. But this is not the first time, and so the Dodgers they have some holes in their rotation, so. Again, it's just that's not what you want. But the big teams are going to be involved in signing the Japanese pitcher Yamamoto. And listen, he might be I think some people are even saying he might be like the best prospect that comes out of Japan, best player that comes out of Japan. So when it comes to pitching, and obviously. The Yankees and many other teams, Ichiro, Matsui, Tanaka, Ohtani, now most recently. There's been a lot of good players that have come out of Japan, and he could be the most, now the newest addition to that. But the big teams are going to be involved in that. Steve Cohen with the Mets. I mean, you could always throw Steve Cohen into any of these discussions because the Mets have the money, but it's really just all a wait and see, So once he's posted, then teams will be able to, reach out and try to sign him. So, but could he take the same approach as Ohtani, where he wants to stay on the West Coast? He might. You never know. So, but yeah, so that's those are a few things that I didn't touch upon during the show. But once we get more towards once he gets posted and free agency and all that, then we'll dive deeper into where he could possibly go and things like that. So, but yeah, and then talked about the Yankees and the Red Sox. I had a lot to say on that. Rivalry's not the same. There's many factors that play into that. Also, if you hear like a thud outside of my door here, that is my dog waiting to come into my room. She does that a lot, especially now with people going back to school and everything. She always wants to be in my room because that's like her backup spot. When my parents are out, she usually goes into my parents' room. If they're not home, she comes into my room. That's just how it works. So I'm second on the list. But so. Whenever you hear that, that's what that is. I don't even know if you guys even did hear that, but so Yankees-Red Sox rivalry again went off on a tangent. I'm gonna put it on. I'll watch it for a bit because as kind of I don't want to say. Well, I guess I'll make it blunt. As pathetic as it sounds, as long as the Yankees are still somewhat mathematically in the playoff race, I'm still gonna have like a speck of hope, just a little bit, But I know it's not gonna happen. It's not, and I think after the stretch with the, the Brewers, and losing that last game to the Tigers, it's over. But with the rivalry, again, what it is now. It's just two teams playing each other. The fan bases don't like each other, of course. And the other thing is the Red Sox, and I said this, while I was in Massachusetts for the wedding I was at, I said, you know what, listen, the Red Sox, they kept Fenway. They didn't tear down Fenway. That's a team that really cares about their history. With the Yankees, I'm not saying that they don't care about their history. I think they like to use it. They kind of use their history to, in a way that I don't really like. Knocking down Yankee Stadium was a huge mistake. And that's something that I think people will say for years. I don't remember ever being to the old stadium. I don't. I think I was there like at least once, but I just don't remember because I was so little. I mean, I've been to the new stadium so many times now, and I actually went to Monument Park for the first time this year. I've never been to Monument Park. And I tell that to my friends and they're like, "You've never been?" No. Because I always get to the game where it's closed. So I've never been there. And finally went there and it was a great experience. Had a lot of fun with that. But yeah, I mean, I would have loved to have seen the old stadium now, but it's not the case. It's just kind of weird the way things are now. And you also look at teams in general. Some of them now are starting to have like the patches of sponsors on their uniforms, and obviously they got the Nike symbol as well. I'm not listen. I'm gonna sound like an old guy yelling at a cloud, but I mean I'm not really a fan of it. I think you're kind of just ruining the jersey and the uniform, and especially now. I mean the Nike symbol is one thing, but I think now you're adding like this patch of a sponsor on the jersey. I feel like you're turning the uniform into a billboard. You don't want to do that. You got the sponsors all over the stadium. That's not good enough. That's why people complain about Steinbrenners. They think that Hal only cares about making money rather than the actual product on the field and winning championships. That's why people are not big fans of him. It's because of that. Now, I think Hal Steinbrenner, to an extent, does care about winning. I don't think he has that same passion as his dad did. I don't. And when you look at the Red Sox, I mean, listen, the fans are frustrated too with what's going on. That you're letting your homegrown guys go, you're trading guys. I mean, I really thought they weren't going to bring back Devers either. I really thought that he was gone. Because it doesn't make sense. These teams have money, but they're acting like that they're smaller market teams. It's like, go out there and be the Boston Red Sox, be the New York Yankees. Go out there and keep your players. Obviously, if they're not productive, if they're declining, then you let them go. But you got star players that fans love, that fans come to see play. And you're trading guys and you're letting guys go. I mean, this is more specifically to the Red Sox because, I mean, I think if the Yankees let go of Aaron Judge, I mean, there would have been, fans would not have been happy. I mean, Red Sox fans, like I talked about in the show, you trade Mookie Betts, you get Alex Verdugo, who's been a productive player, but he's not Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts goes on, plays in a World Series, wins the World Series, might win MVP. I mean, it's not often you're going to find a player like that. I mean, you got Devers still, but letting Bogarts go, I mean, they obviously he was getting older, but JD Martinez, they let him walk. He's with the Dodgers now. It's I mean, listen, if I was a Red Sox fan, I completely understand. And as a Yankee fan, I'm not going to be, parading on you guys, acting like, oh, well, that's great. You guys, they don't want to bring your players back. But the thing is, though, the Red Sox, what cancels that out, in my opinion, is them winning the World Series. Like they won in 2018. Now, obviously, trading Mookie was after the fact, but, like Red Sox have won a decent amount of championships since I started watching baseball. And obviously you don't want to finish in last place and you don't want to see your star players go. But, I mean, the Red Sox, I think eventually are going to get back to that point sooner rather than later where they're a World Series contender. I don't know when that's going to be. They got some young pieces there. Yoshida, who they signed over from Japan, he's a good player. Tristan Casas, he was off to a rough season, but he's kind of picked it up now. So you got some players that you could build around with Devers. I don't know if they're going to bring back Justin Turner for third base. He's been productive for them this year, I think. They got some players that they can work with. They could build off of. I think what holds them back is their pitching. Chris Sale obviously is not the pitcher he once was when they first got him. And listen, they got the World Series with them, so you know what, you'll take it. It's like with the Yankees with with CC Sabathia. You got the World Series, so at least you can say, hey, we won with them. I don't think they're going to win again with Chris Sale. I think the next time the Red Sox win a World Series, Chris Sale is not going to be on this team. But yeah, I think the pitching is the one thing that they need to address, because you can't be signing James Paxton and Corey Kluber and just expecting, like, here we go, this is it. They got to go out and try to get some really good starting pitchers. And, there's probably some things they could tweak with the lineup as well. But I think that's what their weakness is. But hey, listen, they've been over 500 for a long time this year. So, again, it's only a matter of time before they're really good again. It's going to happen at some point, because it always does. They'll win the World Series, they'll go in the tank for a few years, and then they'll come back, and then they'll be a juggernaut again. So we'll just have to wait and see. But, Yankees-Red Sox, I don't know what's going to take for that rivalry to get renewed. But, something could happen. We just got to wait. But, yeah, and then regarding, current standings and things like that, we touched upon that as well. If you did hear a big thud outside, there's work being done at my neighbor's house. So, and there was another thud. So you'll hear that. I don't know how many more times you will hear that, but that's, again, just another noise in the background. But that's one of the things with streaming in a bedroom, is you can hear everything going on. At some point, you'll probably hear my dog barking in the background. You haven't heard that yet, but thankfully. So, because she was going crazy before I was streaming today. With everything going on next door, she was barking, and I'm like, I hope that does not happen while I'm streaming, because I'm not going to be happy. But it didn't happen. But yeah, so the standings. I mean, we're getting close to the end of the season. The season flew by. Once you get past the All-Star break, it's just this was probably the fastest summer of my life. Now with not being in school anymore and just working, the weeks just go even faster, and it's very stressful. It really is stressful, because I don't want time to go too fast. You never want that, but that's just how it is. So, but yeah, I think right now we know the Orioles, the Rays, the Dodgers, the Braves, the Twins, the Brewers, the Cubs. Those teams I think are all locks to make the playoffs. Right now, the Marlins, the Rangers, the Blue Jays, the Reds, the Giants, the Marlins, the Diamondbacks, all those teams. Those teams are all fighting for wild card spots. Oh, and the Astros too are a lock as well. Rangers and Mariners, like I talked about in the show, I think the Rangers are going to be the team that's on the outside looking in. As of right now, as it currently stands, I think that's the team that's going to be on the outside looking in. And that would be a huge disappointment, because this team was off to a great start, but they traded for Chapman. He's blown games. Scherzer hasn't really pitched that well. That could be the reason why they end up not making it. I think the Mariners, right now, they're cold, but they could definitely figure it out, and they should be okay. But, it's, we'll just have to wait and see. I think what's really good about this year is you're gonna have, the Orioles are gonna be in it, the Cubs after not being in it for a couple years. They'll be back in with a new team. You got Bellinger, Dansby Swanson, Justin Steele. at the top of the rotation. So it's a different team. There's really nobody from the World Series team with the Cubs that's left. Everybody's gone now. I mean, David Ross is the manager, but that's like really it. Well, Kyle Hendricks, I think, is the only remaining player from the World Series team. That's really it. There's nobody. There's literally nobody else. Baez, Chris Bryant, Rizzo. I mean, they're all on teams that aren't going to make the playoffs. So, yeah. So that'll be interesting. I mean, the Marlins get in. That would be cool to see. The Mariners, they've made it. They made it last year. It was finally good to see them break through and make it. So that'll be a team to watch. Because listen, they looked really good. I mean, against the Blue Jays, and then listen, they could have that series could have been different against the Astros. I mean, the Astros probably win it, but they could have won Game 1. It's just they made a pitching decision that maybe wasn't the right move. Robbie Ray against Pedro Alvarez, and Alvarez had a walk-off home run, and then they lost a marathon in 18 innings. So they did play the Astros tough. It's just they weren't on the right end of it, and they got swept. But yeah, so you got them too. The Twins. I mean, they've been there before, but I don't really expect them to do anything. But again, anything's possible. The Blue Jays. I mean, is this the year they finally do something? Because they had that collapse against the Mariners and got eliminated. Because that's a team that's very good. The Blue Jays are a very good team on paper, but it's just for some reason they struggle. There are times where they struggle, and you're like, this team is better than what their record is. I think not having Alek Manoah, being what he was last year, I think that's a big blow for them. The pitching I think has been good. Bassett's other than yesterday, Bassett I think's been solid. Barrios, he's had stretches where he was good. It's definitely better than last year, as of right now. Kikuchi was picking it up, I think, because I had him in fantasy and he was doing pretty well. Hyun-Jin Ryu, who's starting tonight, has got a sub-3 ERA in the few starts he's made. So, I think the Blue Jays they should be a playoff team. They should. But again, anything's possible. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Baseball is a lot different than other sports. It's just if a team gets hot, then you never know, because many teams have done it. I mean, the Royals in 2014 when they were a wild card team, they made it all the way to the World Series, and like I talked about on the show. Now they lost. They're a 100 loss team. And it's like how? It's just crazy, because 2015 was not that long ago when they won it. And 8 years later, they're a 100 loss team. The Orioles, when I first started watching baseball, they were really bad. Then they had the stretch with Machado and Chris Davis where they were a really good team. Made the playoffs a few times. And then after that, Machado left, Chris Davis, he fell off. And some of their other guys, Adam Jones as well, left. A lot of their core guys left, and then they weren't good. They were really bad, and now they're 90-win team. They're going to come close to winning 100 games. They could win 100 games, but it's things always change, and there's some new teams that are in it, like the Orioles. Young team, it's going to be exciting, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see how these teams perform in the playoffs. At least for me, it's going to sting not having my team in it, because that was always, for the most part, that was like a guarantee, and that's why a lot of people were like, they'll figure it out, the Yankees, and they'll get in, but it never happened. It never happened. But listen. A lot of people aren't really going to care. because it's the Yankees, and the Yankees are not a particularly liked team across the league, which is, again, understandable. And I believe me, I know why. Being a part of the fan base and what they like to say and things like that, it's I'm not oblivious to that. I understand it. I look at myself as not being that kind of a fan. I try to be a realist and and be honest. If my team's not good, my team's not good, and I'm not gonna harp on what happened all those years ago when I've only seen one championship. And since then, I haven't seen anything. But again, there are people that haven't seen any championships at all. So, yeah, it's I mean, what else is there to say? Playoffs, they're gonna be here before you know it, and yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. And also, like, you're gonna have like your top guys starting in those wild card series, and then it's gonna be interesting to see how the pitching matchups line up when you get to the division series. Because you might not have your best starter going out for game one, but that's kind of what's changed with now the new playoff formats is having these new series, and now having to start your best pitcher, then you're not going to have them for the next round. So, because back in the day, it was four playoff teams from each league. Now it's there's a few more teams added into the mix. So, but yeah, that's basically it with the Patreon, exclusive content, and yeah. So there's going to be more stuff added onto this. We're just starting out. So, as of right now, it really is just going to be kind of a recap of the show, and the more people that tune in and sign up and donate, there'll be more things to add on to it, because once this hopefully we get a bigger audience, there's going to be more super chats to look at and answer, because I want to make sure I answer every single one. I don't want people to go unnoticed, and answer comments. I want to interact with the audience. That's the biggest thing that I want to get out of this, is being able to do that. And I really hope so, because it will, it's going to be a lot of fun. And, already in our second week, and, first week went really fast, and already we're ramping up with the full show. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to what we're able to accomplish here with the GSMC Baseball Podcast and with the other podcasts as well. Make sure to tune into those, because the other thing is we're going to start appearing on each other's shows, and you'll get other perspectives on different things. You'll get my perspective on fantasy football and basketball and college football. If you want to hear me talk about those sports, if you don't want me to talk about those sports, but you already tell, like, a big football guy, so be looking forward to giving my opinions on that as well. But that's pretty much it regarding the Patreon, the exclusive content. So I thank you for watching, and again, it's on the ticker below. So once again, to reiterate it, so to tip or donate to the podcast and the other podcasts in general, and get your comments out there, you go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, this really helps out the show. And then for bonus coverage, obviously, you go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network, which is what you are doing right now. So that pretty much wraps up the Patreon. So I thank you for joining me on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment and a like. We'll appreciate it. I'll make sure to respond to all of them. And obviously, this is the Patreon for exclusive content. And make sure to stay connected with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Again, like I said on the show, we'll be getting those up and running in the coming weeks. So until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Baseball Podcast, Patreon exclusive content. Have a good day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.